All right, welcome everyone today for the edition with the Pat and Mike show for Jackie and Brandon. Thank you guys so much for being here. We wanted to share with everyone the client experience, and this hasn't been, we haven't got on and practiced any of this, so this is just all raw footage. And so we just wanted to ask some questions about how the process went. And the funny thing is we were scheduled to do this at 3 o'clock today, and all the world was going to be perfect, and Nico there was going to be napping. But you know what? Life throws us curveballs, and I think that almost it's just great for today's episode.
Yeah. So Jackie and Brandon are folks who worked with our firm. I was lucky enough to get to work with them. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your afternoon to meet with us. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of introducing yourselves. Kind of sharing your story a little bit.
I'm Jackie, and this is our son, Nico. He was born last year on May 14th. And this is my husband, Brandon. He just took off his shoe. And we got married 5 years ago on June 6th, and we have been raising our family. We have a dog and a house and, all that kind of stuff. And so when Nico was born, we thought seriously about his future and what that was going to look like. And that's when we contacted Mike and Pat when it got, ready for that step.
Fantastic.
And so question for you, when, we're obviously in the middle of a pandemic when all this happened. And yeah. So when you made your first appointment, walk us through, like, what did you expect the process to be like, being that we were all locked down and couldn't actually meet in person?
I was expecting a lot of phone calls, or probably just we'll get the paperwork started and then, we'll have to do it when everything's over. And I think Brandon was expecting something similar, just, trying to get the ball rolling and then wait until, everything's over and people open up to actually have some security.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It was very much an expectation of, well, here's kind of an initial layout of what would happen and maybe some initial estimates of cost and kind of what the procedure would be like, but nothing would actually happen until we come into an office and sit down and do things face to face. And of course, going with the pandemic, that really keyed us off on getting all of this stuff, because just the state of the world and everything going on really put us in overdrive into making sure that we had everything secure and set up for our son.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
For sure. And we hear that from a lot of folks, is that there's usually, to do their estate planning, it's something they know they should do, but there's usually a triggering event that causes that. And for a lot of folks, that's been the pandemic, both because it kind of makes you aware of things and then gives you a good bit of time to think about it and actually put in the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the ironic thing is that all the things that you love and protect are all on the screen right now. I mean, we got your house, we got your kids, we got your family. Like, it's so good.
I'm sure the dog is running around. Yeah.
She's not too far.
Yeah, she's lounging right now in the sunlight.
Yeah. So, just to add to that, I mean, we recognize the importance and the urgency families had when wanting to get this stuff in place. So that's really where the virtual process kind of started. And we just took to that and started, we're FedExing documents that we needed to back and forth. These Zoom meetings. Tell us about the experience of meeting on Zoom versus maybe what you were expecting over the phone.
I was just going to say, how did reality compare to those expectations?
It was a lot nicer and way more convenient because, Nico is extremely unpredictable, as we can tell. And we had some days where it's like, oh, he's going to be in the call with us today. I hope you don't mind screaming. And that's just kind of what we had. And there was not a lot we could do about it. If we had to go to a physical office, especially, your guys' office in Troy or the other locations, it would have been an hour drive for him because we live over in Westland. And it would have been so much harder just to get him to calm down for 5 minutes. He would have been around the office, touching everything, knocking everything over. It just wouldn't have been possible. We would have had to find somebody to watch him. And during a pandemic, like, that's not ideal. And his daycare was closed, and so yeah.
Yeah, reality was much better than the expectation, even from a logistics standpoint, because while he could just be at home and we're at home meeting right after work or during lunch or whatever the case may be, we don't have to block out travel time, and we don't have to worry about if we started halfway on the commute and then forgot a document. We can just run where it is.
Yeah.
I definitely feel for you guys there. I mean, I have 3 kids myself, and like the stars have to align if Katie and I are going to be in a meeting at the same place at the same time. Like, you got to get a sitter, and you got to pay for the sitter, and you got to do all these things. And it's just like, I just might not do it.
Yeah, and it would have added to our delay of doing estate planning anyway. When he was born, we both kind of knew we wanted to do it, and we definitely had plans, and we were looking into it and stuff. But it would have added to our delay, so it helped a lot just to kind of get it done now, and with the ease of just doing everything over Zoom and doing everything through the mail and stuff.
Gotcha.
Was Zoom easy enough to get on? Like, tell us about any technology struggles that you guys had?
I think the hardest thing for us was starting up the computer, because sometimes it didn't want to start, and we were like, come on. And so it's like, oh, okay, we're going to be a few minutes late because our computer is being slow. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it was mostly just because we didn't turn on the home computer for a little while. So when we did, it needed a couple updates, and that takes priority.
Right.
Fair enough.
Once all of that was taken care of, it was a really seamless, painless process.
Yeah.
Good deal. And the one of the things there too, you're talking about just during the pandemic in terms of scheduling things, but I mean, you both work, yeah. I mean, so even on a regular Tuesday, I mean, how easy is it to get together to go to a lawyer's office?
It would be rather impossible.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an engineer, and she's also an attorney, so the time that we have outside of work at home is very limited as it is.
Yeah.
And then to carve into that for commuting to different cities and sitting down and talking and commuting back would have made this process almost impossible if we weren't able to do it digitally.
That is something that I've found with evening appointments is, families like yours will get a call. It's like, can you meet at 7:30 at night? And the answer is, I'd really rather not if we can avoid it. But also knowing that, it's the responsible thing to do on your end, but you would probably rather not have your kids in a lawyer's office at, 7, 8 o'clock on a weeknight anyway.
No, he's teething, so you'd hear screaming. It's like this, the siren happens at a certain hour where the teething screaming starts, and we would fear for your hearing health.
That's very considerate of you.
So, Jackie, being an attorney, this is great. You can probably shed some good light on this. How did the signing go? I mean, obviously this is like push the legal practice and legal services into the future a little bit, because especially estate planning is a little old school when it comes to the requirements for signing documents. Tell us how the review and signing part of the process went.
It went really seamlessly and very well. We received the documents early, so of course I got time to review them. I didn't get to review them, but I had time to review them. And then I was able to review them afterwards, and we just were able to sign. And Pat did a very good job of walking us through and giving us plenty of time to review as we were going through and understand what everything was meant and what was said. When you're in an attorney's office, and I know because I'm always on the other side of the table, you feel very rushed and pressured to sign the documents. And being at your house, it's completely different because you're not as rushed or pressured. Pat can always I'll Zoom you back if I need to go deal with something. If you want to read it and review it and do your own research, it's also really cool. Was really cool for me because I could just click over onto something if I had a question or look on my phone, and the threat of an attorney sitting there watching me do that wasn't there. So that was really nice. And it was also a little bit easier to ask questions and have them explained well, still with the attorney and not with the pressure of the situation just to sign.
Oh, I love to hear that. I love to hear that. You know, definitely one of the benefits we found also from just a planning standpoint is anytime we can involve other family members that need to be involved. So we've had a bunch of meetings where we might have kids out of state, and having them Zoom in and be part of the meeting has been incredibly helpful. Just for yes, you're an attorney, so maybe you have a heightened level of understanding of all of this. You know, maybe half of the estate planning course you paid attention in, but you know, for the rest of the world, it's just great to have more ears understanding, you know, what's happening. And so that's been a huge benefit for us.
Yeah. And as an attorney, it wasn't easy for my husband, who's an engineer, to understand everything too. So Pat definitely did a really good job of just, you know, going through the basics, explaining the legal level at the same time as the normal level, so Brandon could understand it as well. And not saying that Brandon's, you know, not smart, because he's very smart. You know, when you get married and you get a legal degree, your spouse gets half of your legal degree, so he has half of it. Owns half of it. It's communal property. But he, you know, was just able to understand more as Pat was explaining it, you know, in terms in which I couldn't connect, since I don't do estate planning law.
Well, and that was, first of all, thank you very much. I am blushing over here. I'm also sunburned, so you can't tell through the beard and all that, but definitely. But the other thing is that you're an attorney, and so it's interesting, because I've done estate planning for a number of my own law school friends, where it's, you know, just being a lawyer doesn't mean like I can't do the type of law that you do. That's not what I know. That's not how it works, and vice versa. Just because that's not how it goes.
No. So it's like, even though I understand some of what's going on, it was nice to have the whole thing explained too, so that not only Brandon understood, but so I could, you know, when I talk to our responsible people in our trust and in our will, say this is what it actually means, and not just bog them down with legalese that I understand, but I, you know, don't explain well, because I don't do that type of law.
Well, and on from your point of view, Brandon, because we actually do work quite a bit with engineers, and fortunately you've got Jackie there, because usually we charge engineers about a 20% surcharge because of all the questions you guys have. There's ordinary rates, and then there's engineer pricing.
Right.
You guys really crack open the hood on that stuff.
Yeah.
But, it worked well for you as well.
It was wonderful, and you did an amazing job. And you're right, I had a lot of questions, but you did a really good job of just taking things step by step, going through in a really methodical fashion that everything built on itself. And so a lot of the questions that I had as we were going through, they were just being answered, and explaining things in a way that, you know, it kind of breaks all the stereotypes and the myths of what wills are, what trusts are, and how those actually play together. And, you know, some of the technical questions that I had were very satisfactorily explained. You guys did a great job in helping me understand.
That really warms my heart to hear that, because I know we make education, and we make making this stuff accessible a big part of the practice, because there are some things like with a car where you might not have any understanding of how it works, but if it goes, and you're happy with that. With a lot of the estate planning stuff, because you don't actually see it working when it's done, it's just a stack of papers. If you don't have that understanding, then you don't necessarily have the peace of mind or the comfort knowing that it's set aside. So until you get to the point where it's, okay, I know what these are, I know that they work, and I have faith that they'll do it, you don't really feel that immediate benefit. Even if they're done great and they work, you know, you don't actually know that until the time comes. So having those conversations and that understanding is kind of one of the cornerstones of our practice. So it's great to hear that that was your experience.
Yeah. Okay. Enough tooting Pat's horn. I have another question for you guys.
I was to say about the Zoom thing. Sorry. Just that it was a lot better to be able to have Pat explain things like in person, seeing his face rather than being on the phone.
Mhm.
You know, because as he's explaining stuff like that, he could see our faces and our reaction, like, okay, maybe I need to go into depth with that more. So that was a real big benefit of having the Zoom and the video conferencing rather than trying to do it on the phone or even, you know, in person, where it's like we could ask each other something and, you know, then ask Pat if we both kind of agreed to it or make decisions, and then ask Pat, and he could still see our faces and our reactions.
Right. And if you wanted to talk bad about Pat, you would just turn off the camera, hit
Right.
mute, talk a little bit, and then come back on
Yeah.
That's what Mike does.
all the time. Mute. So I have a question for you guys about, I assume at this point you guys have your plan.
Yes.
Beautiful. And so right now we're doing either, depending on location, FedEx, or we have a carrier service to deliver the documents. Any issue, probably pretty convenient, I would say, right? Don't have to go pick up anything anywhere, and you felt pretty secure about it?
Yeah.
Very much.
Beautiful. Okay, good. Anything else you want to add about the process?
I think
Not that you have to.
Well, no, I think this is important to say though, is we did still build that connection with you guys, even though it's just through Zoom. You know, usually when you're sitting and you're talking with somebody face to face, you start building this relationship and this connection that you can trust them and you know that they know what they're talking about. And you guys can probably feel the same thing, whether or not this is somebody that you want to help, this is somebody that is understanding. And even though we're not sitting physically there at the same time, just having the Zoom calls and being able to read facial expressions and body language and laugh and joke like that, and being able to convey the rest of the context of whatever you're saying, which you lose whether it's in email or even in text or voice.
Mm-hmm.
Having the Zoom calls really helps that.
Yeah,
And so
Brandon, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And no, that is a really good point. Like when I think about you guys, I know what the family looks like. I can picture the dog jumping up on you and all that, and you have that. You know, things that you lose if it's just, you know, a phone call where it's just this voice out there.
And truly, that's just as important to us, you know, because we're passionate about what we do, about helping, and you know, you lose that if it's just over the phone. You know, if you're just filling out forms and sending them for signing, I mean, there's no love there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was going to wrap unless you got something else, Pat.
Nope. That's all.
Okay. I truly appreciate you guys coming on. That was great stuff. You know, anyone who could utilize our services, you know, busy, it doesn't matter what's going on in life. This has been a very convenient process, and the feedback we're getting from all the families we're working with has just been incredible. So,
and that's what I was going to say is even though we really pushed it a lot more during the pandemic, we've been planning it and trying to get people to do it well before then. It was just people were not necessarily open to it. But we hope to make it a big part of our practice going forward, just because there are so many families where, you know, go home, put the kids to bed, and hop on a Zoom call, as opposed to trying to coordinate all that chaos we were talking about.
Yeah.
So even when Corona's gone, this way of doing it is still going to be here for us, at least.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for being on, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Alrighty.
Bye, Nico.
Thanks, guys.
Say bye.
Bye, Nico.